Welcome back to Viewpoint. We've been discussing the union movement, its successes and its challenges, and of course how closely linked to the ALP it is. I'm going to cross now to a union leader who is not affiliated with the ALP. Joining us from Melbourne is Steve Purvinas, who heads up the Aircraft Engineers Association. Thanks for joining us, Steve.
Hey, mate.
I should point out to viewers that you're partaking in Movember. You don't normally look quite so ferocious.
Yeah, and I feel like a bloody fool, you know, but it's all for a good cause, and apparently the chicks love it. Or so my daughter Holly tells me.
I don't know about that. Now, to tell us, we've talked a bit about the union movement and, of course, how central it is to the Labor Party and the Labor government, and how the Fair Work Act has certainly increased their role in the day-to-day dealings in employing people in the private economy.
Right.
There are unions like your own that are not affiliated with the ALP. Some have dropped in and dropped out. What's the history of these arrangements, and why do you favour them?
Yeah, look, our union has about 3,000 members, and we have a 20-man executive, and there's not one person on our executive who's ever been a member of any political party, and that's just the way that we want it. We think that unions should exist so that people can pool their money together to get support when they need it, to increase workplace safety, and to help them negotiate better wages and conditions when the time comes around. What
advantage does it give you and your members, though, by not being affiliated with the ALP?
Well, the advantage is I can come on here tonight and speak from the bottom of my heart. I'm bound not by any party lines, and no one's going to tell me what to say, so I think that's an advantage.
Yeah, I can see how that's an advantage, giving you that freedom, but of course the whole history of the Labor movement is that it was the struggle of workers against capital, and the Labor movement was formed, or the Labor Party, sorry, was formed to give political voice to that Labor movement. Why wouldn't you be part of that? I mean, it's obviously a powerful political tool.
Well, look, I am part of it to a point that I'm the small unions representative on the ACTU executive, but whether we become aligned with the ALP or some other party is something that we choose not to do, and it does also have a disadvantage as well. It means we don't win favour with people in Parliament, but at the end of the day, I'm the leader of an aviation union, and I can tell you now there is not one ALP government since 1989 that's lifted a finger for aviation workers. So I sit here looking back over the previous 12 months. I look at what our ALP government did when Qantas grounded their fleet. They intervened on behalf of the employer to make sure that we didn't have a right to fight for job security in our industry, and I'm a little bit jaded over that.
Well, this is the point. Yeah, you have an axe to grind with the Labor government over that issue, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely, and they've had opportunities to assist aviation engineers in the previous 12 months post the shutdown of the Qantas fleet, when we sought some assistance for them to intervene and help out with some the building of a hangar at Avalon Airport so that they didn't sack 400 workers a few months ago. And as we speak today, we're faced with another 500 engineers who are about to get the chop while the government and their agents, CASA, turn a blind eye to aviation breaches that are happening every day out on those airports.
So you exercise your industrial muscle, but you don't seriously expect that you think you get a better deal from a Conservative government? You get a better hearing from a Conservative government?
Oh, look, I'm under no illusions that we're going to be treated any better by Mr Abbott and the coalition governments. And I mean, the first thing that they're going to be looking at doing is going to the Productivity Commission, getting support for the reduction of shift penalties on weekends and on those special days like Christmas. So we're under no illusions that we're going to be better off under them.
Well, do you think that the union movement broadly then exercises too much influence through the ALP?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the union movement has a lot to say, and what really disappoints me is, and look, this is probably the first time I've really come out on television, spoke about politics and the way our country is run by these factions. What really disappoints me is that we hear union leaders, we hear the ALP, they come out and they roll out these same lines over and over again as if they're reading from a party songbook, and we really need someone out here talking on behalf of workers. I mean, I can't talk on behalf of workers, but I can tell you one thing. I can talk from my heart, and my heart might just resemble what an average everyday worker would say if they were in my opportunity.
Well, in what way do you think that this nexus between the unions and Labor has hurt workers or hurt the country?
Yeah, look, I'll look at our government today, and here we've got Julia Gillard, appointed by the New South Wales Right. And I've been learning about unions, I've been learning about the factions within the ALP, and you know what? I've learnt that the New South Wales Right doesn't necessarily mean you have to come from New South Wales, and it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be on the right. We've got Bill Shorten, comes in from Victoria, and we've got a Prime Minister that they appointed who is not from the right. So the New South Wales Right is this all-controlling body in the union movement and in the ALP that makes decisions that affect me, they affect my workers, and quite frankly, I've had enough of it.
Well, do you think they were wrong, those unions in particular, the New South Wales Right and that faction were wrong to roll Kevin Rudd and install Julia Gillard? Is that the starting point of your problems with them?
You know, I don't know if you watched Q&A the other night, but wasn't it fantastic to see Kevin Rudd and Malcolm Turnbull bashing it out there? I mean, they look like they were in love with each other. And you know what? I think nearly every Australian would give support for either of those two gentlemen to run our country. And what they did to Kevin Rudd. And look, I sit here as a union leader, and I know the unions have generally supported Julia Eileen Gillard, but at the end of the day, I think Kevin deserved a little bit more than what they did to him.
Well, of course, Julia Gillard herself is caught up in the repercussions from a union corruption scandal going back almost 2 decades. Do you believe that this controversy is hurting the union movement more broadly, but also obviously the government?
Yeah, look, I think Julia is going to become a liability to this, to the Labor movement if allegations continue to flow like they are. And look, I see the party line come out. There are no allegations. There are no allegations. Well, you know what? There doesn't need to be allegations. We've got a Prime Minister who was going out with a gentleman 20 years ago. And, well, I don't think it's even an allegation. He pilfered $500,000 that should have went to union members. And she was going out with him at the time. She was involved with the drawing up of the legal documents that allowed some of those transactions to take place. Well, and there's questions about money that's been slipped into her bank account. You know what? She's sitting there saying, I don't have to answer this. There's no allegations. Well, I'll tell you what, if she doesn't start answering questions soon, it's only going to get worse.
Well, I mean, that's the issue. We don't want to go through the details of it all now, but you think the Prime Minister just needs to give a better explanation in Parliament or where? Or should there be an inquiry into this? We've heard calls for a Royal Commission from Grace Collier. Others have talked about this in the past. Ian Cambridge, even way back, called for a Royal Commission into the AWU affair. Is there a need for a broader inquiry into union corruption in this country?
Look, I don't necessarily think there needs to be a broader inquiry into union corruption because we've got a few isolated incidences. We've got this HSU affair, and we've got the stuff that's now being dragged out about Julia Gillard from the 90s. But there are so many good people who work in the union movement. You've got members. A lot of people are actually people who've lost their jobs at work, and they go in and work for their union, and they just work honestly and openly. It's just a few rotten eggs who've come into our movement, and they do things that are splashed all over the front pages of the newspapers. And I think union members do not want to hear about these things. And the reason they don't want to hear about them is because they don't want them to happen in the first place.
What's the mood in the Labor Party caucus about all of this at the moment? Are you speaking to MPs about it?
I wouldn't have a bloody clue what takes place in the Labor Party caucus. I don't associate with those people. I prefer to spend my time talking to our members. There's 500 of them where they're next on the chopping block at the moment. So what those people are up to, I wouldn't know.
All right, thanks very much for joining us, Steve Purvinas, there for an outsider's view, an outside union view of what's going on in the union movement at the moment. You know, really. A lot of people waiting to get to the bottom of this. Investigations, of course, still continuing into the HSU affair in New South Wales and Victoria. We're going to come back after the break and look at the opposition's economic policies. We hear a lot about the taxes they want to get rid of, the two big ones, the carbon tax and the mining tax, but what about an extra tax they actually want to impose on us?